Well, actually, into today's video, we're going to have a look at whether the next 8 to 10 days in today's video, and then right at the very end, we'll have another little sneak peek at April from the CFS model. Before I get on with the video, I just talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my pages at gazwebbiz.com. If you press play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazwebbiz.com. Essentially, the ads pay for the website and pay for me to sit here and talk to you via the website. So if you press play on the video ad and watch the video ad, then Gazwebbiz will get a royalty fee on what you're doing. And thanks so much for doing that. Right, just want to say about this week's weather, it looks as though we're going to have some rain at times, but I think we are looking at a drier week this week, and of course I highlighted this last week, but I thought the worst in terms of the storms was over. I think that's still the case, although it may turn more unsettled again actually next week, and I'll show you a reason on these 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts. These are for 8 to 10 days time, the mean flow of 500 millibar flow in the northern hemisphere. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is over on the right, and well, look at this, what the flow charts are seeing for 8 to 10 days time across North America. A very intense area of blue there, digging down into northern, central and eastern, northeastern parts of the state. That's a really deep trough of low pressure. Very cold air will be engraved within that trough, so they're going to have another huge sort of wintry plunge next week across the United States. We'll bring lots of heavy snow, you'll hear about it, very cold temperatures as well, and this has been going on all winter. It's been the pattern throughout winter. We've had a very cold winter across the states. Of course, I highlighted this in my winter forecast. I didn't get the winter forecast particularly right for the British Isles, but I did say it always looked like a cold winter for northern and eastern parts of America. And boy, has it occurred big time this winter. And of course, as that cold air spills out over the warm ocean, as I explained in Sunday's video when I looked at some of the reasons why this very wet winter has occurred, as that spills out over the warm ocean, it enhances the jet stream and it produces low pressure. So yeah, we've got the tight lines here coming out of America. This is for the 25th to 28th of February. You just want to say that as well, so it is next week. Yeah, we've got the tight lines coming out of America. That's a strong jet stream running across the Atlantic and then developing this area of low pressure around British Isles. That has essentially been the pattern of the winter. Cold air in America going over the warm ocean, producing a strong jet stream and areas of low pressure, which have then crashed into British Isles. And we've still got that high pressure sitting to the east and the northeast of the country, which has been a real problem this winter because it stopped these low pressures from pushing through across the British Isles and into Europe and Western Russia as they would normally do in a typical Atlantic-driven zone of winter. Because they have this big area of high pressure up to the northeast blocking, it sort of kept everything locked in. So on the face of it, there's very little there that's changing from the pattern throughout this winter. Now, what we've got to think about is that the Atlantic is cooling down a little bit because we've had a lot of churn through the Atlantic over this winter, so the sea surface temperatures are cooling down a bit in the Atlantic. We're also losing the temperature gradient somewhat between the tropics and the poles, so that sort of limits the jet stream a little bit. So it may not be quite as stormy and as wet next week as it's been earlier in the winter, but nevertheless, that's a pretty unsettled looking signal, I have to say. The GFS is very similar, going that very deep trough up to the north and the northeast of the states, producing really cold air. We'll hear about it, I'm sure, next week if this comes off. And then the strong jet stream brings the areas of low pressure into British Isles. Heights rising a little bit to the south with this area of high pressure around the Azores. We've also got the high pressure up to the northeast. So high pressure wants to really start settling things down, but until this sort of breaks in the States, until this cold winter sort of relents in the north and the east of the States, the high pressure is going to be battling against it and it's going to struggle to really get in for any length of time. Now, that said, we have got a drier week coming up this week, so have a look at the temperature and precipitation ensembles from the GFS model. We're quite mild at the moment, actually. Remember, the red line is where we should be. We're above average. We're going to go even more above average. A little bit of a taste of spring, actually, coming up in the next day or so. But temperatures are going to fall back, and overall, we're going to stay somewhere around the seasonal average, I think. A little bit above average at times through the rest of February. This is the 1st of March, just here, and memory indications indications that it may turn a little bit cooler as we go into March. But nothing cold really coming up, nothing desperately wintry on the evidence of that ensemble. And in terms of precipitation, well, we have got some rainfall coming up this week, particularly centred around, I think, the 20th of February, when we could bring a weather system through across the country. But I think overall, that's a much drier signal for the coming week. Now, as we get through to the 23rd, then the rainfall spikes are coming back, and this is coinciding and taking us to the end of the month. This is coinciding with that cold trough digging into America, enhancing the jet stream again next week. Not the huge precipitation spikes there, though, of earlier in the winter, and that's just a signal, perhaps, that even though the pattern is going to be very similar to what we've had through much of the winter, it may be that even so, the Atlantic is going to run out of a bit of puff due to the time of year, if nothing else. The end of February, early March is a time when we lose that temperature contrast a little bit between the tropics and the poles. So we may not bring the copious amounts of rain through next week, but nevertheless, it does look as though next week will probably have more rainfall associated with it than is the case this week. The temperature anomaly, for the next week, taking us from the 18th to 22nd of February, showing going to be around or a little bit above average most of Europe, very miles where you have to go right up to central parts of Russia and down into Spain and Portugal, actually, funnily enough, to find temperatures below average most of Europe is a mild scene. So let's have a quick look at the generic charts then. Here's the GFS for Monday, bringing area of low pressure through. That will mainly affect the north and west, probably not too much in the south and the southeast. That low pressure will push through on Tuesday, may bring some rain down into the south-southeast, and another area of low pressure is developing in the Atlantic, quite a deep one, that one on Wednesday the 26th. That moves in, and it all turns very unsettled then as we go through to the latter stage of next week. Notice again the very intense polar vortex there, those polar colours, with those purple colours coming out of Newfoundland, heading up towards Greenland. Again, that is associated with that very cold air pushing out of the north and the east of Canada into the United States. But for us, for day 10, Friday the 28th of February, so right to the end of February, still low pressure is there, producing showers or longer spells of rain, and possibly turn a little bit cooler as well. The jet stream is digging southwards, the black line there, showing that the jet stream is starting to dig down in towards Spain and Portugal. I think temperatures may drop a bit as we go through to the start of March. Probably not really cold, but I think it will be notable that things will cool down a little bit and stay very unsettled, or stay unsettled at the start of March. ECWF shows that low pressure up to the northwest of the country start next week. That brings quite a vigorous area of low pressure through on Tuesday. We'll have to watch that when it's not a bomb. It's not sort of storms that we've been seeing through much of this winter, but it is quite a vigorous low pressure, tightly packed isobars again. It wouldn't take much to deepen that a bit more and turn it into a very significant system, so that'll be one to keep an eye on. Midweek next week shows low pressure sort of dominating, and we keep low pressure in control to the end of February the 28th. Again, bring that low pressure through across the country. Probably not producing copious amounts of rain, but producing more rain than has been the case this week. So what we've got to be watching out for is a drier week this week. Will be some rain coming through at times, and then the rain coming back to some degree next week. Hopefully not to the same degree that we've had throughout most of the winter. But nevertheless, it will be wet, I think, next week, a more unsettled week coming up. Just want to have a very quick look at the CFS 500 millibar height anomaly for April. Yesterday I did the video suggesting that there's a chance things could turn colder into April. I had another update from the CFS model. It updates daily at the website weatherweb.net. You can find the link to WeatherWeb on my links page. And again, it's very similar. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly for April. We've got these orange colours up here over Greenland. We've got the trough of low pressure being placed to the south and the southeast of the country. So yeah, that's a cold looking signal again for April. Jet stream is doing something like that around that trough of low pressure. It's not going as far south as that, let's correct that. The jet stream is doing something like this around the trough of low pressure. So we're on the cold side of the jet. We've got a trough of low pressure to the south and southeast. You'll be expecting northerly, northeasterly influences with that. So again, it's a similar signal to yesterday, which is that we could start to see some colder weather coming along, significantly colder weather coming along as we get into April. It's one to keep an eye on. It's very experimental. CFS model is not to be trusted, really. No seasonal model should be taken that seriously. But it's just interesting that the CFS is seeing this sort of change in the pattern, significant change in the pattern, placing the low pressure to the south and the east of the country for April. It's seeing it quite regularly, and it wouldn't be unheard of for a very mild winter to then turn colder in the spring. So we have to keep an eye on that. In the more immediate term, it's drier this week, but the rains return next week, hopefully not to the same degree. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope it won't be to the same degree that we've had through this winter. But I think next week will be a wetter week, taking us to the end of February. And with that, we may just push things into the wettest winter on record. I looked at that on Sunday. I think it's going to be close, actually, because it's turning out drier this week than I expected. So it could be very close. Will we beat 1914, 1915? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be quite exciting because I don't think there'll be much in it. That's it for now. 5-day forecast tomorrow. Think about that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.